Chair of the committee, District 6 Councilmember Tony Cardenas, contends there's a need to have a process in place for the denaming of the building and has questions for staff.
I think it's unfortunate that many people in the public don't understand that there is processes that we tend to follow in the city of Los Angeles when it comes to building buildings, naming buildings, etc., but it doesn't seem like we actually have a process of denaming a facility. And I think that there's a twofold issue staring us in the face right now. And if we're going to be honest with ourselves and want to talk about proactively naming a building that, technically speaking, already has a prospective name on it, we should be honest about having a process of denaming. When Parker Center got named the first time, they didn't name it overnight. It was a couple of years or so in the process to do so. First, I'd like to do is ask Chief Gary Moore, our Chief Engineer Gary Moore, to come up and speak. Can one of the sergeants get Gary Moore? In the meantime, what I'll do is I'll ask the President of the Board of Police Commissioners. I want to ask you some questions, Mr. Pacheco, about your letter that you sent over to, it looks like, all the council members and the mayor. Thank you very much for your letter, and I want to thank you for your wonderful work that you do, especially since it's volunteer, tens and tens of hours a week. I don't know how you do it, but thank you very much for that, and I appreciate your correspondence. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, you mentioned in your second paragraph that this is why, consistent with past practice, I placed this matter on our agenda for discussion, and I'm sharing the Commission's views with you. Whose past practice are you referring to?
There were instances, Council Officer Cardenas, where the City Council had, I understand, solicited the Commission's input relative to the naming of two different facilities.
Now, are these facilities that are brand new, or these facilities that were renamed after already having a name?
I think one was, both names were newly attached, of course, and I believe both may have been sort of remodeled, rebuilt. So I think those were the circumstances.
And they had previous names on them, on that particular segment of that facility?
I believe they were just divisions.
Yeah, they weren't whole buildings, my understanding, the reference that you give.
I think that's right. But really, my point was really even more basic than that, though. My point was really that we had our input was solicited in our role on the Commission as we work with law enforcement, and we used the hearings really to get the input of two very important parties. One, the department, and we got that, and also the community. And so we solicited the types of things that you've just heard in your public comment. So the whole point, again, was really just to give the issue some visibility and to get input as to the naming. We fully understand that the naming authority vests in City Council. That's really not the issue that we had or that I had.
Well, I appreciate you understanding that perspective and volunteering your understanding of that perspective, but at the same time, with all due respect, I believe that it's easier for Americans to get off the couch, come to a public hearing like this, and I'm thank God that they do come and participate. This is a democracy, but it's a lot easier for people to come to that microphone, fill out a card, and say something that they don't like, rather than getting up off their couch, getting in their car, coming over here, what have you, and then saying something that they do like.
Speaking on the importance of legacy, former police chief, District 8 Councilmember Bernard Parks, gives a brief history as to how Parker Center was named.
The people that voted to make this Parker Center, and this is back in '67, are names that we're familiar with. People such as Marvin Browdy, John Gibson, Gilbert Lindsay, Tom Bradley, Billy Mills, Mr. Timberlake, Ed Edelman. These are people, and Artie Bernardi, that voted to do this, names in which many of them have their names on buildings. And none of them, from my experience, has been people that are willing to allow racism to run rampant without speaking up. I think also it's very instructive, when you look at the process that took 3 years, there are people that are names that we're all familiar with. Leslie Shaw, the first black Postmaster General in Los Angeles, Crispus Wright, who years later owned the LA Sentinel. Mr. Fleur, who happens to still have a company in this city, General LeMay, John O'Melveny, who still has it, Mr. Pauley, who I think UCLA has a gymnasium named after. Also, Norman Topping, president of USC, Mark Taper, I think there's a building named after Mark Taper, and I believe Dr. Ronaldo Carrion also is a person that was on the committee. So what my concern was is multiple. We have a 3-year process in which the council of the city of LA put forth a directive, named a building, created a foundation. When I finally inquired of Bureau of Engineering, I said, what is going on in the building? They said they've been instructed to put no name on it, which means that someone was going beyond the authority of the city council and denaming a building that the council had already made forward. We'd never received in 3 years any communication, verbal or written, that said the police commission was even considering. We asked the question over and over again. I put the motion in because I'm concerned that, number one, that if we're going to have a process that was done 40 years ago, and yet we can make that change without the input of the council, then it is a very serious violation in my judgment. The other thing is, when we make these decisions about putting names on buildings, and if we go through the city, we find we didn't do that very often. I think the first police building that has a name on it was Parker Center. And after that, you then have Jess Brewer, Homer Broom, Ed Davis is a training center, the Amundsen Center, and a variety of things that come since then. If we do not have a process as going through and putting names on as far as taking names off, what are we saying to the legacy and to the people and the family members that your name or your family member is on Velcro and we'll just move it whenever there's another special interest group that shows up? And if we're going to have the criteria to name, we should have a criteria to basically take the name off that is clearly understood while we're cutting ribbons and telling people that this is going to be a legacy for their family, that no, it's not going to be a legacy, it's only going to be for 10 years or 12 years or 15 years. We should not put people in that situation.
Pointing out that you only need 8 council votes to pass legislation and make law, District 10 Councilmember Herb Wesson says this is a new day and a new Los Angeles City Council.
America, when you think about the people that sat around this horseshoe 40, 50, 30 years ago, they're a lot different than we are. Look at our diversity. Just today, almost all of us are having genes showing our sensitivity. This is a new Los Angeles City Council. This is a new day. When you look at the police commission, and the chair of the police commission's name is Pacheco, it's a new day. And they've done some very progressive things on the police commission. It is a new day. There are changes in the Los Angeles Police Department. It is a new day. It is a new police department. We have women in the police department who have the rank of chief and are constantly moving up. There are Asian officers. There are African American officers. There are Latino officers. There are gay officers. We even have a police chief and his chief of staff that come from a foreign country. They speak funny. They come from the country of Boston. They speak Bostonian. It is a new Los Angeles Police Department that has decided to partnership with the community, and it has made us a greater and a stronger city. Across the street, about 600 or 700 yards, a building is being constructed. Everything in that building is new. The name should reflect the new America, the new Los Angeles, the new LAPD, the new Los Angeles Police Commission. It should reflect us. Now, I'm not going to say anything at all derogatory where it relates to former Chief Parker. But I will say this to you, my dear friends and my members. This is not for me. It's not about policy. This is personal. If we built this building today, if we never had a police administration building before, I guarantee you, as we began to vet the name, that Parker's name would have never come up, because we would be sensitive. We're sensitive to the gay and lesbian issues.
Thank
We're
you very much,
sensitive
Mr.
to
Wesson.
to the issues of the Latino community. We would not even consider that name. So ask yourselves, if this was the first administration building we ever built, would you name it? Who would you name it after? And I guarantee you, it would be another name.
Highlighting the positive aspects of Chief Parker's tenure, District 12 Councilmember Greg Smith says, we don't give buildings temporary names.
I doubt very seriously if the Citizens Commission back in 1966 and 67 ever assumed that when the building was named that it was only temporary. We don't name buildings for temporary. That's not what we do. We named it after a seminal leader in policing in the United States of America. When I went through the police academy, we would learn two people that were seminal agents of change in the world's history of policing. Robert Peel from England and Bill Parker from Los Angeles, California. Why? Because Bill Parker came to this city and changed policing. This was the most corrupt police force in the western United States at the time he came here. You could buy the job of being a police officer. You could buy the job of being a lieutenant or a sergeant. For giving the mayor and the police chief a few bucks, you became an elevated officer in this city. It was a corrupt force with crime rampant in those parts of the city that it was okay because the police chief and the department looked the other way. Bill Parker changed all that. And for his role as a leader here, he was asked to go to the FBI and talk to them and teach them. He was asked by the United States Senate and the United States Congress to go speak on police ethics in America. He was asked to a number of universities to talk about policing in America because of his leadership role in changing the LAPD. Yes, he was flawed. Yes, he was wrong. But who isn't? We have high schools named after George Washington and Thomas Jefferson because they were great leaders. They also owned over 200 slaves, something abhorrent in America today and to everybody in this room today. Should we now go change the name of those boulevards and those high schools because they owned slaves? John Downey was the governor of California in the 1850s, a great leader in Los Angeles. They named a city after him. We named a Rec and Parks facility after him. He was a great leader here. He killed Indians. Juanito Serra enslaved Indians throughout the state of California to build his missions, not because they wanted to be there, they were enslaved. Yet we have things named all over the state. Juanito Serra this and that. Bill Mulholland, great leader in the history of Los Angeles, brought water to this city, and in doing so, destroyed the environment of Inyo and Kern counties, which we are paying hundreds of millions of dollars to fix today. Abhorrent in today's society. All these things are judged by mores today. And if we want to be revisionist and change everything by our mores today, then we got a long list of things to fix, ladies and gentlemen. And if that's what this council wants to be, is revisionist in history and judge everything by today's morals, then I'll start giving you a long list, because I've got a lot of research on the things that people have done in the city that have been recognized for that now is wrong.
District 7 Councilmember Richard Alarcon offers the name of former LA Mayor Tom Bradley as the name for the new police administration building.
The fact is that I don't care to hearken back on the days of Chief William Parker in a negative sense whatsoever. Although I could, I don't think that that is my purpose. The theme of the day is move on. The theme of the day is yes, we can. And when I offer the name of Mayor Bradley, I offer it because I think he captures the moment. Why else would, 10 years after his death, would a president be elected on what the political pundits call the Bradley effect? What did that represent? It represented a coming together in a community that was not together. It represented fighting for justice when justice was not the order of the day. It meant taking us to a new direction, a positive direction that is Los Angeles. And I believe that that is the message that we should capture for, most importantly, every officer that walks in and out of that building. Every new officer who walks into that new headquarters, if they look up and say, "Who is William Parker?" they will find some great accomplishments, but they will also find some things that challenge everything we stand for today. And I don't want that new officer to identify with any portion of that. I do believe if they look up the history of Mayor Bradley, 50 years of service to the city, 20 years as a police officer, rising to the level of lieutenant, leaving because he felt he could not rise any further in those ranks, and then becoming mayor of the city, and doing it for the positive reasons, I believe that is an image that we want our officers to understand, appreciate, and act on.
Those who forget their history, whether they like it or not, are destined to repeat it. That according to District 9 Councilmember Jan Perry, who offers her interpretation of the issue and asks the renaming issue be returned to committee.
I read the motion dated June 19th, 1967 regarding the designation of Parker Center, and I have a different interpretation. The motion states the police building and the area surrounding it be renamed Parker Center and designated as follows, and it goes into, naming it Parker Center. While the building may be torn down, I would argue that the name Parker Center should stay with the site based on the above referenced words and the area surrounding it. That is not to deny history, that is not to rewrite history, that is not to be revisionist. Whether we like it or not, it happened, and that is part of our city's history. The area has already been claimed as Parker Center. Mr. Moore, the chief engineer, indicated that there will be an issuance of an RFP, and I would suggest that as part of that RFP that we just not put a parking lot in, but we try to do what we're doing throughout the city, which is to create a multi-use space pursuant to Proposition L, so that we get the biggest opportunity that we have. But again, I argue that the name is there, leave the name there. I have to say to Mr. Parks, I respect your principles and your dedication to hold on to your principles. That's in short supply these days. People often react to things based on how the media responds and pressure from other places for political reasons. You are taking a highly difficult position, and you have documented it well, made a very compelling case, and I respect you for it. But I think it's important to be able to debate and discuss, and as I spoke to Attorney Branton this morning, I told him that I had hoped that when Barack Obama was elected, it would have provided us with a larger opportunity to be able to debate, discuss, respect each other's intellect, and deal with facts, whether we like them or not, cold, hard facts, and analyze them. I don't know about some of the other folks, but I went to school and got an education to be able to learn how to reason, not to obey, but to reason. And so, in closing, what I'm proposing is to leave the name where it is. Let us, as a council, create a protocol and a process that will be respected for time immemorial to name a building and dename a building if that is to be the case, but a process to be able to do that. And I'm going to ask, and I'm asking now, that all of the motions be sent back to committee and that we not come back until we have a process in place to name or to dename or defrock or whatever you want to call it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
14 ayes.
Okay. That'll be sent to the committee. Thank you.
And thus, your Los Angeles City Council voted to send the matter of naming the new police administration building back to committee for further review. LA City View is the government access cable channel for the City of Los Angeles, featuring live coverage of city council meetings and programming about city department services and events. You can watch City Council meetings live or view past meetings by going to the city's website at lacity.org. Follow the instructions for video on demand. We invite you to address the Los Angeles City Council on any item on the council agenda, as well as during public comment. You may come downtown to City Hall or go to the Van Nuys City Hall and participate via video teleconferencing. And now, those of you living in the Harbor area can go to the San Pedro City Hall, located at 638 South Beacon Street, room 700 in San Pedro, and also participate in council meetings via video teleconferencing. And remember, you can watch all Los Angeles City Council meetings live in their entirety on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays beginning at 10 a.m. On Sundays, you can watch the replay of all the week's meetings, also beginning at 10 a.m. Council Week in Review can be seen Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m., and on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. Well, that concludes our program for the week ending April 24th, 2009. On behalf of Jim McBride and everyone here at Channel 35, I'm Jack Popejoy. Thank you for watching, and please join us for the next Council Week in Review.
They will have to tell it too, 'cause I've got trouble, holding this man of mine. It seems there's always
Hey, buddy! You with the stupid hat! Come here! Closer! No parking! Do you know what happens when you park illegally on these narrow hillside streets? You block the street so emergency vehicles can't pass. Each year, homes are destroyed and lives are lost because of drivers like you who park illegally! And you know what else? You can get a citation. And you can be towed.
Help us get to the emergency. The life we save just might be yours. How'd you know?
The ball called.
Hey, look out for the pothole.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
380, right, Maria? 340. Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to the City Council meeting for April 29th, 2009. Today is Wednesday, and we're in City Council chambers where we meet every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. I'm Los Angeles City Council President Eric Garcetti, joined by my colleagues, Council Members Alarcon, Huizar, Labange, Parks, Smith, Weiss, and Zine. That takes us to 8 members of our 15-member body. We require 2/3 of our members to be here to begin our meeting and constitute a quorum. Thus, the following members are now late. If they will join us right away, Council Members Gruhl, Hahn, Perry, Rosendahl, and Wesson. Mr. Reyes is excused today, and Mr. Cardenas is excused to arrive late. But again, Council Members that we are waiting. Actually, we have Mr. Cardenas here. Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. And so we're waiting Ms. Gruhl, Ms. Hahn, Ms. Perry, Mr. Rosendahl, and Mr. Wesson. Ms. Perry is here as well. Thank you. So with that, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruhl, Hahn, Huizar, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
We have Mr. Huizar move that and Mr. Labange second without objection. Those minutes are approved. Next order of business, please.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
All right. Mr. Smith moves and Mr. Zine seconds without objection. Those will be approved as well. If we can run through the agenda, please.
Before beginning the regular agenda, Mr. President, there's a request to continue item number 32 for 2 weeks, and the new date is May 13th.
Okay. Is there any objection? Continuing that to the 13th of May? If not, so ordered. Next items, please.
First items on the agenda are items noticed for public safety. They're building and safety reports, and the department has recommended that items 1, 4, and 5 can be received and filed inasmuch as the liens have been paid.
Okay. If there's no objection, we'll move to receive and file those.
And then the other building and safety reports, 2, 3, and number 6, can be confirmed.
Okay. We have a card on number 3. We'll call that special for cards from the public. If we can take up to 6 and 7.
I'm sorry, number 7, there's
that
a
was
request to continue that.
Right. Let's continue that
May
without
20th.
objection. And take up 2 and 6, please. We can open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have been held, items 8 through 23. Items 8 through 10 are commissioners. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Yes, let's hold the commissioners on the desk. We do have
And
12 members.
That would leave 11 through 23.
Okay. Colleagues, any specials 11 through 23? Ms. Perry, You have one?
I just want to introduce somebody.
Okay. Mr. Weezar?
15?
15 for Mr. Weezar. Ms. Gruhl?
If we could just call 22 special, we're going to have an amending motion.
Okay. 22 for Ms. Gruhl. Mr. Parks?
Yes, I'd like to call, well, first of all, number 12, I have to recuse myself. Also, the citizen is here for number 6, and we've asked for reconsideration.
Okay, we'll
on
come back to that
issue.
one.
And then number 19, special.
Okay. 19, Parks and Cardenas.
And
All right.
Mr. President, there are two reports on item number 23, and they do agree, Budget and Finance has an additional recommendation if council wishes to adopt both reports.
Yes, let's move both of those reports. If there's no other additional specials, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote on the
13
balance.
ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, items 24 through 32. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, do we have cards from the public on any of those?
Yes, there are cards on 24, 25, 26, and 28, and 32 has already been acted on.
Okay. If we'll open and close the other public hearings then, 27 and 29 through 32. Any specials, colleagues? Any specials? If not, let's take up the balance, please. Open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you. That is approved. Let's hold 33 for closed session. If we can take up reconsideration of number 6 for Mr. Parks. Please open the roll on reconsideration. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
We'll call that special for Mr. Parks now as well. Colleagues, before beginning our meeting, if I could direct your attention, we have a very special guest that is here with us today in the council chambers. His Highness Sheikh Khalid is with us. Sheikh Khalid bin Sakir al-Qasimi is the eldest son of His Highness Sheikh Sakir bin Mohammed al-Qasimi, the ruler of Ras Al Khaimah, which is the northernmost emirate of the United Arab Emirates since 1948. His Highness was named Crown Prince and Deputy Ruler in 1958, which continued until June 2003. And we recognize the incredible work that he did during much of that period. His Highness oversaw the day-to-day operations of the Ras Al Khaimah government and served as principal contact with all foreign governments, including the United States. He served as chairman of the board of the National Bank of Ras Al Khaimah, the Ras Al Khaimah National Oil Company, RAK Gas Commission, and RAK Cement Company. In his capacity as Crown Prince and Deputy Ruler, His Highness Sheikh Khalid has aggressively promoted economic development that benefits all the people of both Ras Al Khaimah and the United Arab Emirates, including the expansion of both the international airport and the Sakir port, the promotion of environmental, energy, and agricultural initiatives, cement manufacturing, and investment in healthcare. And His Highness has been a great reformer in his efforts to promote changes that would lead to greater popular participation in society in both the Emirates and the region as a whole, calling for clean, sustainable, independent energy future for Ras Al Khaimah and for increased educational opportunities, including a rapid expansion of international and cross-cultural student exchanges. Our very own first Arab American council member, Dennis Zine, and I greeted His Highness earlier this morning. We encourage everybody to take some time to speak with him, as his great work in furthering the friendship between his emirate and our nation has been manifest. He also is somebody who has done tremendous work as well to promote trade, democracy, and I hope you'll join me in welcoming him with a round of applause. And thank you, Your Highness. We look forward to many more years of friendship together. Welcome to our chambers. I'd like to recognize Ms. Perry and Ms. Hahn for introductions as well. Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I'd like to ask all of these students and clients of the Fred Roberts Recreation Center Jefferson Adult School and their teacher, Sean Abajian, to stand up. And they're here today on a tour of City Hall to learn more about their local government and to become more engaged. And they are very happy to be here, and I would ask all of you just to give them a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perry, and Ms. Hahn as well has some special guests.
Thank you, Mr. President. We also have another group of students visiting City Hall today, and I would like to welcome the Narbonne High School's leadership students. as well as the executive board of the Harbor City Harbor Gateway Chamber of Commerce, who are visiting here today. Please stand up. I want to give a shout out to the principal, Jerry Kobata, and Melissa Miller, who is the Associated Students Advisor. I also want to thank Joanne Valley. Yes. Clap for your principal. And I also want to thank Joanne Valley, Executive Director of the Chamber of the Harbor City Harbor Gateway Chamber of Commerce. This is the first time that the Chamber has organized a trip with students from this council district to come down to City Hall. They're here today to learn a little bit more about their city government, and I'm always particularly proud of Narbonne High School in all their achievements. They're a great school to have in my council district. So welcome to all of you. We talked about the importance of voting earlier this morning at the breakfast, and we passed out voter registration cards to all those who were 18 or will be turning 18, and many of them have promised to cast their vote in the May 19th special election that we're having here. And I told them that's the best way to get involved in your government is cast your vote. So welcome to City Hall, Narbonne High School. I hope you have a great day, but more importantly, I wish you all the best as you all, many of you are going to be graduating in June and are going on to fulfill your own personal dreams. So welcome to City Hall.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Appreciate that. And also, my mother-in-law was student body president at Narbonne High School. So, that being all the introductions for the morning, we'll move to public comment, and we'll begin in Van Nuys with Rick Nightingale.
Good morning, Rick Nightingale. Yes, this is regarding, I spoke yesterday regarding all of the ballot measures. I'll tell you people, you think a lot of them, since you live in apartment buildings and so forth, you'll never own a house or anything like that. But you will. And every ballot measure is coming on here, it goes back to the homeowner. Just because you live in an apartment, don't mean that you'll never have to pay this debt that they keep putting on you. That it's just ridiculous that you have to show that you're not going to put up with it anymore. That you have a budget when you get your paycheck. Why don't the council have to have a budget, and the government in Sacramento the same way? Arnold Schwarzenegger tried to make it to have a balanced budget, and you people voted it down. I don't understand it. It's beyond me that you people voted it down, but you did. But you turn around and have to vote no on all these measures, to turn around and tell them, you use the money that you have, and there is no more. And you have to get a rainy day a bank account going for when it's lean and mean. That's just the way it has to be, because we just can't keep going on this way. It's just ridiculous that every time you turn around, they want more money for something, and they figure out some way to do it. And it just has to stop, and it's up to you voters. You are the ones that turn around and do this. You have the power. Nobody else has the power except you to turn around and vote no on all these measures, to tell them you are not going to take it anymore. And it goes back on nothing. Mr. Alicon, regarding our trees, I hope we don't start putting in cactuses, because I'll tell you, the city's going to get lawsuits on that one again, because those thorns hurt. I grew up in a backyard with a few cactuses, and they hurt. So I hope that don't happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nightingale. For an additional introduction, Mr. Rosendahl.
In the back of the room, we have the Kentwood Elementary third graders. Would they all stand up so the cameras can get you and wave? Welcome to City Hall. We're glad to have you here. I'm expecting you to come up here and become council members someday. Be a great opportunity for you. We want you to go up and see the tower and see the whole city and everything else. Welcome to City Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. And continue with public comment, Dr. Clyde Williams.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno. Yesterday there was a Caltrans presentation in Pasadena regarding the State Route 710, the geotechnical studies. Less than 50 people arrived to hear the presentation. We had 150 in El Sereno. Key issue was the existing Caltrans housing and the Portofino Caltrans housing bill that was held in committee on Monday evening. Alhambra mayor was very happy with that. Why? Because it puts the Caltrans route over in El Sereno again. Another 9 months will be required before there will be any real determination of the current studies. They talk about route neutral, but they forget about the portal neutral. That is, how do you get into the tunnel? It's through El Sereno. They stated last night that everybody had agreed that it would start in El Sereno, north of Valley. Caltrans is our largest slumlord in El Sereno and leads to polarization of our community, with Monterey Hills opting out of being 90032, whereas nothing can happen in the Caltrans corridor. So it sterilizes our development for over 20 years. In El Sereno, we're going to meet with De Leon and try to plead for a council representative to support the return of Caltrans housing to the residents of El Sereno and to the tax rolls of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Back to Van Nuys, Mr. Zuma Dog.
Yes, thank you. Time for the Zuma Dog Report. And I'd like to announce that my blog, LADailyblog.com, has now ranked top 5 in the state of California, based on my blogging of last week's information about Villaraigosa's appointed pension investors, now with an SEC investigation. It has now been announced more Villaraigosa appointed pension scandal on the heels of a $7 billion Wall Street loss, which triggered the investigation. Now a Villaraigosa appointee has resigned yesterday due to, get this people, Jack Weiss city attorney campaign fundraising. That's right, unethical violations that caused the pension board member, a Villaraigosa commissioner, after losing $7 billion, now he's resigned. So look what we have here, people. We have a $7 billion Wall Street loss that is now being called pay to play, and it is now being investigated. I've been calling for this all along, and I just only hope my public comments have helped trigger this investigation. If not, I sure as heck knew. So now what's happening is we've got the company, Weatherly, the company involved in the pension scandals with Villaraigosa. What are they doing? They're funneling money into Jack Weiss. They're having their commissioner appointer come for, hey, come, we're having a Jack Weiss fundraiser. People come and give money because this is commissioner, powerful appointee. Look at this. Now they have to cover their tracks. They must funnel money to Jack Weiss's campaign so that he can be city attorney, so that their tracks can be covered so nobody gets in trouble. This is going to rock City Hall. The Villaraigosa appointed commissioner appointments with the pension scandal. This is it. We're going to be declaring bankruptcy in 2013. Greg Smith's Finance Committee stood silent. Eric Garcetti City Council stood silent. You were warned by Bill Fujioka of the CLA. You were warned. You did nothing. You are in big trouble now. Indictment.
Thank you, Mr. Dog. And the city attorney wishes to read into the record a comment.
Thank you, Mr. President. A public comment speaker is allowed to criticize the policies, procedures, programs, or services of the city or its officials. Criticism against the services provided by an incumbent official may be inferred by the comments of the speaker campaigning against the incumbent official. However, criticism against another candidate who is not an incumbent of that office is outside the jurisdiction of this body unless the speaker could articulate a connection to the current provision of city services.
Thank you, City Attorney. And now back to public comments. Nadia Khan.
Good morning. I'm here today, and hopefully, I really hope that all the city council and all the representatives are listening, because I have a very important message. As everybody knows, on Friday is May 1st, which is International Workers' Day, and what I would like to do is I would like to invite the city council and all the students and everybody that has come here today to come out that day, because what we're doing is we're going to be not only coming here in the morning, we're going to be bringing people here to come and participate in the morning, but then in the evening we're going to be gathering in MacArthur Park, where we're going to be talking about, where we're going to be coming together to have a potluck. We're going to be showing videos, and we want to also talk about doing mural projects, because there's a lot of people in our communities that express themselves through art. And I feel like a lot of mural projects aren't being supported like they should be. And we have the ideas in our mind, we just don't have the resources, but you have the resources to help us to do these. So that night, we're going to be coming together to talk about doing mural project at MacArthur Park, showing the way the workers right now, the way that a lot of the vendors and the eloteros, the way they're getting kicked out of MacArthur Park, because right now we're in an economic crisis. These workers should not be getting their carts taken away. And I think if the city can support something like Fiesta Broadway and closing the street for several days, I think the city should really come to support not only yourselves as workers, but all the students that have come here today that hopefully can make it that night, and all the other workers of the city, because and that also leads me to my next thing, is that we should be trying to look at May 1st as declaring it a national holiday. Because, I mean, I think if we were to do that, then everybody could be coming together, because that's what needs to happen. And basically, like I said, we have the ideas, but us as people, right now, I don't have any money in my pocket, and I need the support of the city council to do these things, and so does a lot of people in the community. So I really hope you can come out that night at MacArthur Park from 6 p.m. on. We're going to be there. Thank you.
Thank you. And on the murals, just very briefly, we've been having a series of hearings on murals in Los Angeles. I know Mr. Labange, as chair of our arts committee, has been doing that. So if you want to get in touch with him or through our city's website at our cultural affairs department, there's a lot of discussions on funding as well as preserving the old ones. So might be of interest to you. Okay? Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Miguel Guzman. And after that is Chuck Tenon. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, everybody. It's so funny to be able to, Jose right here and John Perry are not present, but I was just on Fiesta Broadway, and basically what happened was that a Mexican singer is getting a recognition for making the people laugh, and while this is going on, basically, I don't know, I'm pretty sure you guys know about the 2006 immigration problems that happened outside here, City Hall, with the HR 4437. Well, since that year, we have been having problems. We gathered up on MacArthur Park that day. Somehow, it was a peaceful march. They took over the streets. Somehow, they infiltrated that march, and they brought us here to City Hall peacefully and everything. Later on at the park, they got kicked out. Some people got arrested. We all know what happened in 2007 on MacArthur Park with the police brutality, the kicking out of the immigrant, the immigrant and the people who was gathering there that day. Well, basically, we have Fiesta Broadway officials supporting these fiestas, when right now we have May 1st coming up on Friday, and basically we have no support from the city. So I would like to know, for people like us who are, we know are running on our own, trying to put this together, how can we get support from you guys to be able to invite the city? Because right now, Parks and Recreation is having a festival in MacArthur Park. Well, we should be concentrating on what this day is for, and I ask for this day, at least here in the LA County, to be recognized as International Workers' Day, so we won't have to have that problem next year or this year that we're going to be doing this, because even with this, I'm still having problems trying to shut down the streets for us to be able to do our demonstrations, and I think that's a very problem that we're having right now, because we need to come with the people who's moving and participating within the movement, not just the organizers making them big or giving them those opportunities to be able to do this.
Thank you. And I saw the barricades up today, this morning on Sunset Boulevard as well, so I know the city is prepared for the march and has made sure that there is the street closure moving forward. I saw that on the streets there today. And there's an information number on those barricades on Sunset Boulevard between Echo Park and downtown. Yeah.
I have been looking at that, but the whole thing...
It's just a point of information. We can't, unfortunately, under the Brown Act get into a dialogue, but I'm happy to let you know. I just wanted to make sure you knew that as well, about that. Okay. Cool. Great. Thank you. Chuck Tenon is our next speaker, and then I'll recognize Mr. Alarcon for an introduction after Mr. Tenon.
Good morning, Council President Garcetti and council members. Regarding the city attorney race, the recent articles, attacks intensify in city attorney's race. It makes no sense for a negative degrading, bashing, combat war between candidates. What we need is a good city attorney who will fight for the people of this city and uphold the justice system and make sure it works properly. The real issue is about a candidate's credibility, integrity, public trust, leadership, understanding the legal system, and who can do the best job, not the campaign use of toys and games, degrading and undermining tactics, slanderous accusations, and insults to take down an opponent. Recently, on Monday, candidate Carmen Trutanix came to the Watts Gang Task Force meeting on Monday. He spent almost an hour on what he plans to do as city attorney. He left a good impression. He answered all the questions. He did not degrade or bash or insult his opponent to get votes. He told everyone what he plans to do as city attorney if elected in making this city a better place to live and make sure that our justice system works. And also 21st Century Four-Story Arts Institute, the new Grammy Museum in Los Angeles, connecting with youth through music, will offer educational programs to kids. At-risk youth and scholastic achievement are necessary to build so that they can become our tomorrow's leaders. And I encourage you to look into this youth programs and the treasures that this museum offers. And President Garcetti wanted you to know I worked with Kenny Nolan this last week. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very cool to know. Mr. Alarcon for an introduction.
Yes, I'd like to join with Councilman Tony Cardenas to recognize Comisión Femenil San Fernando Valley and their Youth Leadership Institute. We have students from Sylmar High School and from Van Nuys High School who are supervised by their counselors, Emma Martinez from Van Nuys High School and Martha Garcia Jimenez from Sylmar High School. They are organized and directed by Elvia Cepeda from the Youth Leadership Institute of Comisión Femenil. It's my pleasure to have them here. They're here to tour City Hall, learn a little bit about city government. But it's my particular pleasure because I worked for Chicana Service Action Center, which was created by Comisión Femenil many, many years ago before some of their parents were born. And it's a pleasure to see them here learning about government because these are the future leaders of Los Angeles, the state, and the country. So we want to welcome them from the San Fernando Valley.
Thank you very much for that introduction and welcome. Great to have you here in Council Chambers. Our next speaker is Walter Bechtel. After that will be Mr. Arnold Sachs. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. I wanted to come back because yesterday I went over the videos of what was said, and as I was leaving the podium, one of the council members, Mr. Alicorn, said that the municipal court is not the jurisdiction of the city, it is the county. Actually, it's the Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles, and it is titled the Municipal Traffic Court. I believe there was even a fight about that, about the jurisdiction a while ago. But regardless of the fact, I think it's important to note that the PJ over there in Division 67 was what I was talking about. And even if that isn't in your jurisdiction, there's nothing here to prevent the body, the council members, from signing a petition and asking for that individual's removal, especially in the face of the fact that you all stood here last Friday and recognized the existence of an Armenian genocide. She has been outspoken over the many decades, refusing to recognize its existence, and even with her husband threatening the United States of sanctions from his home country, Turkestan, if they but recognize the Armenian genocide. I just don't think it's appropriate for her to continue on in the city here if you really feel the way you claim. Also, you said there was only 132 people watching. I don't think that's accurate. I'm not sure where you get your statistics from. Are you referring to the 132 people who actually pay for Channel 35? because I think most of us watch Channel 35 on the internet. And as far as the Ethics Commission, Mr. Labange said maybe we should go up there. I've been there several years. I've been coming in here since 2002.
Arnold Sachs, our next speaker.
Good morning. Thank you, Arnold Sachs. I'd like to thank the city council attorney for straightening out that situation. But, Mr. President or acting president, when you call him the city attorney, it presumes he's having the city's interest at heart. He should be addressed as a city council attorney. I'd also like to discuss last week's speech by the mayor when he asked for workers to retire early, calling them deadwood, and the fact that everybody from the city council stepped up to defend the city workers. So in the spirit of that speech, I tried to consider what we can call city council members. Could we call them driftwood? Could we call them petrified wood? Could we call them space junk? But I still like criminals because you're enabling. Show respect for your actions. You're enabling departments like the CRA, the airport, the DWP, the Harbor Commission, the Harbor, and the LADOT to steal millions and millions of dollars. Now we're talking billions probably, especially with the airport. So the mayor can call his city workers deadwood. I think we can call the council members criminals. I think it's a fair trade. Then very quickly, I'd like to address the naming of the Parker Center and a comment from the LA Times which covered it. And this is regarding one of the council members' comments. Whatever the name will be, it should be a public process. He said, if we're going to later remove someone's name, we need to have some kind of criteria as opposed to a group showing up and deciding that person is irrelevant today. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about a person, but I'd like to bring forth the mention of the marathon, where a group of 4 people showed up, and it was decided by this wonderful council to change the date with a contract from Sundays to Mondays with a public input.
Sky Anderson, our next speaker. Sky Anderson. Thank you, Mr. Sachs. You're complete. Sky Anderson.
I'm Sky Anderson. I'm a resident of Hollywood. I have the character defects. Everyone would do just what I want them to do. Everything would be fine. The city would run great, and we wouldn't have any problems. But obviously, I don't have a lot of experience in government. I just talked to Mr. Garcetti. He said some things they're doing for the homeless. I didn't know you could call 211 as a homeless person, anyone else, and find a place to eat, find a shelter, find any help you need. I didn't know that. So I'm wrong a lot. But I want to talk about public access. Public access is the people's television. We have government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And since we don't have public access, the citizens of Los Angeles don't have a way to talk to the people on television. I'm asking Mr. Garcetti and the other city council support government of the people, for the people, and by the people. I can be critical of anyone, but tonight I'm critical of Mr. Bernard Parks. He was head of the police department. He thinks he had a lot of power. He still thinks he has power, and he's head of the budget committee. City council people want to get along with him, and so they agree with him. Mr. Bernard Parks is a loser. He lost the race to Ridley Thomas for the supervisor because Mr. Ridley Thomas talked about his experience on the police department. We had the Rampart conflict, which cost the city millions of dollars in settlement fees. We had heroin addicts shooting up heroin in Skid Row openly. We had drug dealers openly dealing. MacArthur Park wasn't safe to get into. We had innocent children and young people being killed by gang members in Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Bernard Parks wouldn't do anything about it. I'm asking the city council, please don't follow Mr. Bernard Parks. Make up your own mind and give the public television back to the people. Restore our city to government of the people, for the people, and by the people. I want to thank Mr. Garcetti. He understood my anger over the homeless, but I was wrong. Thank you.
Phil Jennerjohn. And then we will go to Van Nuys for the speakers in Van Nuys.
Good morning, council members. My name is Phil Jennerjohn, and I'm the public relations spokesman for a political organization called Westside Republicans. In fact, I just left a small stack of business cards over here with the sergeant, so I hope you'll get one. I encourage all voters in Los Angeles to visit our website, westsiderepublicans.com, and join our organization in our fight against higher taxation. On May 13th, Westside Republicans are going to have a dinner near UCLA. We're going to have two very important guest speakers. We're going to have Al Ramirez, who's running against Barbara Boxer for the U.S. Senate seat. And we're also going to hear from Ari David, who's running against Henry Waxman in California's 30th Congressional District next year. For more details, go visit the website, westsiderepublicans.com. Westside Republicans are also going to have a table set up at the Farmers Market and Grove Shopping Center this Sunday. We're going to be giving away free literature and brochures, and you can stop by and get a free bumper sticker, no on Proposition 1A, and help Westside Republicans vote and defeat Proposition 1A. It's a horrible tax-raising proposition. It's on the ballot May 19th. Stop by and meet our chairman, Rob Pedersen. Rob Pedersen is a leading voice in Republican politics here in California. When the county and state GOP leaders were a little bit hesitant about opposing these propositions, Rob Pedersen showed vision and leadership and courage. He contacted the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association and told them that Westside Republicans would be the first organization to officially come on board and oppose Proposition 1A. The state and the county eventually joined us. Even our adversaries, the Democratic Party, found that they could not endorse Proposition 1A. It lets you know when you're right, when even your adversaries can't in good conscience oppose you. I'm going to end today with a quote from boxer Sugar Ray Robinson. He said, quote, "To be a champion, you have to believe in yourself when nobody else will," unquote. And I feel that way about myself. About a month ago when I ran for mayor, I didn't do very well. I only got 2,500 people to vote for me. It's not so great, but 5 months before that, I only would have gotten one vote, so it's a step. So I helped defeat Measure B, which I think was great, and May 19th is going to be a good day for me. Thank you.
All right, you'll go to San Fernando Valley, Mark Hurd. Mark Hurd in Van Nuys. Mr. Hurd?
Thank you. Just want to say thank you to the council. You guys are doing a terrific job. And I want to speak briefly about the parking situation. I understand you guys are spending $500,000 to do research. Let me just give you a little bit of free advice. $3 an hour for parking downtown is absolutely ridiculous. This reminds me, we need a revolution, a parking revolution, I think. Also in Westwood, you've got these new parking meters that when you pay, let's say you put a quarter in, you walk away from your car to go get a couple more quarters, you come back, you put 2 quarters in, it takes away the first 15 minutes from the first quarters. I think that's stealing. Now, I understand you guys want to give away this program or spending $500,000 to research whether or not to sell the whole program to another company, which is kind of like giving our rights away. I say we keep the parking in the hands of the city council. I say you lower the $3 an hour downtown back to about $1 an hour. Let's be fair. Not everybody's rich. There's people that need to get downtown and get services, and you're hurting the businesses. You're doing the same in Westwood. I've talked to a lot of Westwood business owners, and they're very, very upset about those new meters that you've put in Westwood, and you've also extended the hours on those meters. So my advice is free. It doesn't cost $500,000, and I think there's other people that feel the same way I do. And I pray upon the council to hear our voices. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Matt Dowd will be our next speaker. Matt Dowd in the Valley.
Thank you. Yes, unfortunately, my advice has not been free, and your attorneys are dealing with my attorney over that particular matter. But yeah, Matt Dowd. I paid my business tax to the city of Los Angeles, and I'm a constituent now, and I'm a stakeholder. But you know what? I'm going to change my tone a little because we had a massive victory yesterday, and I hope all those any school children, college age youngsters who are there in chambers, I hope you're still watching this on TV. Because you sat in the seats where we sat for 3 years warning about all the things that are happening right now in the city. And you are going to inherit this. And the city council that just got introduced to you, they just spent $500,000 to investigate the feasibility of selling all your parking revenue. And so you're going to be going down to Staples Center or anywhere you want to get parking or a meter. It won't be $3, it'll be $10 an hour in 2020. They'll run away with it. And Greg Smith, see, the San Fernando Valley's waiting for you, Greg. The mayor of the valley, I can see it now. He's probably chuckling right down here. The mayor of the valley, because you stood up to this. It's ridiculous. We've pounded some sense into you over the 3 years we've been here. But it's been tough, and we've gone through a lot. And Zuma's still pounding it out on the blog, LA Daily blog. I'm PacificBreezeIncense.blogspot.com. We're going into local government. We're coming to city council, eventually the mayor's office, because we have to clean it up. We'll use Dr. Deming's 14 points, whatever it takes. Dennis Sign. See your musical chairs on the Titanic down there right now. You got Dennis Sign, Greg Smith, Eric Garcetti. How many presidents do we have today?
Thank you very much, Mr. Bernal. Mr. Bernal in Van Nuys.
Thank you.
Good morning, City Council members. I just want to take this opportunity to personally thank one of the field representatives from Councilman Alarcon's office, Manny Pagueras. We recently had a serious situation with the illegal use and sales of nitrous oxide, and our kids were dying from this. There was just so much damage that was being caused, and finally when Manny Pagueras got involved, we were able to shut down this business, and I appreciate that. I want to thank you. Secondly, I want to address Councilman Tony Cardenas. We're having a serious problem with the Arleta neighborhood councils. There seems to be a small portion of the board members there that refuse to attend the meetings. There have been charges that have been filed against certain board members, but these members that refuse to attend the meetings are making it impossible for the council to have a quorum. So in return, we as a community really have no one to speak to. There's several issues that we wanted to have addressed through the neighborhood council, but because we can't achieve a quorum, I mean, it's been a year and we're left out in the dark. We're very unhappy with that. I want Councilman Tony Cardenas to know that if there ever was a time that I was inspired to run for office, this may be it, because we have to do something to change what's going on in our communities. So I'm hoping that after today we can have a discussion. I have left my number with your office. I'm actually going to walk down there right now and speak to your chief of staff and hope that there's something we can do to move forward. Because if something is not done by June, the community of Arleta could lose an additional $50,000, and that's unacceptable. Thank you, City Council.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony. Mr. City Attorney?
Mr. President, the speakers should be reminded to address their comments to the council as a whole.
Thank you for that reminder. I know there's some first-time speakers. For the folks who've heard that before, a reminder, please, about that. We have the special meeting. If we can call the roll in the special meeting, Madam Clerk.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruel, Han, Weezer, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 14 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, first order of business.
First item is item number 34, and that's an item for which public hearing has been held.
Okay. Anybody wishing to call that special? If not, let's go ahead then and prepare the roll on 34 and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next items.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, items 35 through 37. 10 votes are required for consideration, and I believe there are cards on all of them.
Okay, let's hold those for cards. Let's temporarily recess the special meeting, go back to the regular meeting. If we can take up the commissioner appointments, please.
That is items 8, 9, and 10. And, Mr. President, just for the record, item number 9, there's a request to continue that matter for 1 week.
Okay, without objection, we'll continue 9 for 1 week.
And then that would leave 8 and 10 before council.
Okay. Ms. Perry, did you have a business item as well?
No, I'm waiting for 25.
Okay. We have items 8 and 10.
And that's confirmation of Mr. Damon Martinez and Yolanda Anguiano.
Okay. I'd like to ask those nominees to come forward. And I know we had these come through the Housing, Community, and Economic Development Committee. First of all, thank you for putting yourself forward for service. And if you'd like to make any introductory comments to the council, please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve on this commission and being able to attend city issues. So I look forward to the opportunity to continue serving and to be able to hear any appeals if they do come about.
I echo those comments. Thanks for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's good to see all the council members working hard. I understand there are a lot of problems in the city now, and I respect that there's so much dedication by yourselves.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rosendahl?
I'd like to know what the Relocation Appeals Board is. Explain it to me and what you see as your missions there.
In the case that the Community Redevelopment Agency goes through the process of a tenant not wanting to, if there's an appeal to being moved to another place because development is coming forward, then they have the opportunity to say, no, I don't want to move. I don't want to go through this process. I like where I'm at. So in that position, they get to go through the process of filing this complaint, and we as the Relocation Appeals Board are having the advisory role of listening and giving a recommendation to the CRA and for all of you to know about it as well.
I see. Do you want to add to that? Pull the mic forward. There you go.
Certainly. I'll just add that as I understand it, it's the process to allow persons affected by relocation decisions due process, so that if they want to appeal the decision by the staff, we'll hear that appeal and allow them the process that they're entitled to.
I see. Could I ask you each to give me a 1-minute background on who you guys are, your qualifications?
Right. Started as a volunteer with the Mission Hills Neighborhood Council. I've done a lot of community service, and in college was an activist. So through networking and through my work, I am now a senior field representative to Assembly Member Felipe Fuentes out of the Northeast San Fernando Valley.
Very good. And you?
Thank you. I'm an attorney at the law firm Proskauer Rose. I've been there about 3 years. I was assistant U.S. attorney for 5, clerk for Justice Carlos Moreno when he was in the district court, and worked at the law firm Irela Manila for 2 years.
Very good. Well, thank you both for stepping forward to this public service. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our chair of our Housing Committee as well is here, Mr. Wesson. You want to say a few words?
Well, basically, I want to, as Mr. Rosendahl said, commend you for your desire to serve. I want to thank you for being in committee today. It was a little longer than anticipated, but Mr. President, this is a reappointment of individuals who've already demonstrated that they have the skills to get the job done. So I ask the council for a unanimous vote.
Thank you very much. With that, let's go ahead then and take up these two commission nominations. Again, thank you for your offer of service and continuing offer of service as well. Please open the rolls, close the rolls, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Congratulations on your reappointments. Thank you very much. If we can take up the next item called special, please.
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 3, and that was called special for cards.
Okay. We have a card from Zuma Dog in Van Nuys on item number 3. Mr. Dog?
You know, it's such a big day, I hate to even waste a minute, but this is important because I'm hearing about this a lot from people in the council chambers. Excuse me, please. It's $14,000 building and safety for the cost of cleaning a lot. I'll tell you what, you want to provide jobs? Why don't you have people clean the lots that you're putting liens against? You could do it for a lot more than $14,000. I'll tell you what, privatize it. Give Zuma Dog the contract. I will clean that lot no matter how big for under $14,000. But here's the real problem. You tack these liens on. You go, okay, you got to have the lot cleaned, but they don't get notified properly all the time. And then they get these liens and businesses are closing. I really think that the city council needs to be very cautious of its anti-business mentality with all these fiends and liens and fines and hikes. Because you're going to have a lot of commercial real estate. Now, you had the housing foreclosures. Now prepare. Zuma Dog prediction, commercial property next. Thank you.
That will close our public comment on this item. If we can please open the roll on item 3, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item is item number 6, and that was called special for card.
Okay. We have Rosario Excuse me, I can't quite. Is it Schuler? Come on forward. Ms. Schuler?
So how many?
Good morning to you.
Good morning. This is my second time at a council meeting, and it's interesting that it looks like nobody's paying attention.
We're paying attention. We're listening to every word. Go ahead.
Okay, so now I start. Do I have a certain amount of time?
Yeah, 2 minutes and it's on the clock right there to help you.
Oh, can I start now?
You already started, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. All of you have a piece of my paper anyway. I'm requesting that the city waive the cost for a fence that was placed unfairly and without adequate time of at least 30 days around my house, because it was presumed abandoned even after it was communicated that I was faced with hardships. What happened to me in this city of Los Angeles, I feel that anything less than 30 days notice was inappropriate. When I moved from my house, I left a forwarding address with the U.S. Post Office, and I'm on record with the Los Angeles Building and Safety Department, simply because I sought a permit to do changes to my property. On May 19th, Mr. Johnson got my number from the DWP. Mr. Johnson called me and introduced himself as an inspector and explained to me at the time that he had gotten my phone number from the DWP. Anyway, the neighbors, he said, complained about my property being left the way it was left. I was in a process of doing renovations, and my contractor pulled out. He pulled out because they had taken over $100 and something thousand worth of money to tear down my house. And then when I went to go and get some more funds, the whole market had fallen. And so I explained to him that the market had fallen, my mother was dying, and that if I would do exactly what he wanted me to do, had he just give me a little bit more time. I promised him I had not abandoned my house, and I would take the matter serious. So what happened was I went to go and look. I was a novice. I knew nothing about trying to find a fence.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Your time is up. If I can get a building in, Mr. Parks?
I'd like to ask city staff to come up. They've been working on this item for approximately a year, and I'd like them to give an overview of their efforts.
You want someone from Building and Safety?
They're right here.
Okay, great. If there is someone from Building and Safety, then come to the middle table. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. You've heard what Ms. Rosario has commented on. Would you give an overview of what your department has done on this issue over the last year that you've been involved with it?
Yes, good morning. My name is Andy Harris. I'm the principal inspector
Speak
in
right
the contract nuisance abatement section. Ms. Schuler was issued an order in April of 2008. For over 2 months, nothing was done. The order went to the mailing address listed with the county as we're required to do. She finally called Mr. Johnson and gave him a correct mailing address.
Just a minute, ma'am. Just a minute. Okay.
When she spoke to Mr. Johnson, he gave her an additional 2 weeks to get a fence up on the property. Additional 3 days went by after the 2 weeks. The fence was still not up. Inspector Johnson was receiving a lot of complaints from the neighborhood. He went ahead and executed the work orders to have a fence installed.
Okay. And then what's happened since then?
Nothing. The permits for the remodel have expired.
And when did they expire?
In, I believe, September last year.
Okay.
No work has been done on the house since. The fence is still up. The property is being maintained clean. But the only thing we did was we put a fence up to secure the premises.
Okay.
Mr. Parks, if we can continue this, because it appears that the lady would like to have a conversation.
Let me just ask,
yeah.
we've continued this the last time it was on calendar, and the issue is, the dispute is something we can't resolve because the work has been done, the city is owed the money, and the issue is that Ms. Rosario wants not to pay for the city's work. Ma'am, let me just finish. Let me just finish.
Excuse me, ma'am, please, if you would take your seat again, you had the opportunity to speak, so you can, okay, this is not the venue for debate. You can talk to the council member once we're offline, but this is not the venue for debate. You had your time for your public speaking. Thank you.
And so,
Ma'am, you've had your time. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, ma'am.
I think, yeah, we've been talking to her for...
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Ma'am, if you could please sit down. Thank you very much.
But as I said, the issue that we've tried for the last year with the complaints and stuff, we can continue it another time, but I don't know if there's going to be a resolution because the dispute is about the payment of the cost. The fence is already in place because the public has complained. We have photos that show that the building that was being rehabilitated is basically rough contracting and has not been worked on for well over a year, and the permits have expired well over a year ago. So there doesn't appear to be any effort to correct the problem. So we can continue it. The issue is I don't believe we'll have a resolution the next time, just as we don't have this time and we didn't have last time.
So, would you like to open the roll on this item then? All right, would you please, Madam Clerk, would you please open the roll on this item? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Next item, please.
Next item is item number 12, and I believe Mr. Parks called a special so he could step out on this item.
All right, Mr. Parks is going to recuse himself on this item. Have any cards? Is there are no speakers in the queue on this item. Mr. Parks, you need to recuse yourself on this item, please. Mr. Parks, you need to recuse yourself on this item. There are no speakers in the queue on this item, so if you would please open the roll. All right, please open the roll on this item. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item.
Next item is item 15, and that was called special by Councilmember Huizar.
Mr. Huizar.
Thank you very much. Questions have been answered. I ask for your approval on this item.
All right, thank you very much. Would you please, no further speakers in the queue on this item. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you.
Next item.
Madam President and City Clerk, can I ask that items 11 and 17 go forthwith, please?
Without objection, that's items 11 and 17, forthwith per Councilmember Huizar. Our next item?
Next item is item number 19, and that was called special by Councilmember Parks.
All right, Mr. Parks is back, and we do have some cards on this item. Oh, it's already had a public hearing then, okay. Mr. Parks?
Yes.
Item 19?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to raise this issue because it was discussed in committee, but I voted against it in committee, and not that I don't support our efforts in dealing with domestic violence, but in this case, there's a grant in which the city is going to receive about $150,000 a year for 3 years while we spend somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1.5 million of city resources. And most of the grant deals with upgrading 2 positions to higher rank. As the Budget and Finance has been looking at grants over the last couple of years, attempting to keep the city as it relates to not over-expending on grants and not getting involved with grants in which our matching funds or our commitment is more excessive than what the commitment of dollars. And so as a policy statement, as the Budget and Finance as we move forward, this would be one of those grants that would not return more on this investment. So I wanted to just call it special to vote against it and express the concern from the Budget and Finance Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parks. There are no additional speakers. Okay. All right. Mr. Cardenas wishes to speak on this item. And Mr. Smith, while we're waiting for Mr. Cardenas, why don't you speak?
As long as we're going to debate this, I thought I'd say also I objected in this committee as part of a larger policy, and that is we have been accepting grants for a long time around here. Many of those grants change over time. The grants are reduced. The city's proportion goes up. This is a wonderful program, but as part of our bigger financial hole that we are digging for ourselves, every time we take grants that fund less than 50% of the cost of the city to run the grant. So you have to come to a point where you say, is that grant worth it? Can we afford to do it? And in this economy, we cannot afford to take on additional burdens. I had asked in committee that the CAO see if they can find a way to restructure the financing on this, make it more feasible to fund, and they were unable to do that. Whether that was reducing the police commitment a little bit or whatever we need to do to make it work, I felt that was the important thing to do. And it is going to be a policy of mine now as we go forward through this budget process that I am not going to vote to accept any grants that are not funded more than 50%, and this is one of those.
Mr. Cardenas.
Yes, thank you very much. Chief Moore could come up. Do we have a representative from CATS? All right. It's already been pointed out, unfortunately, that this grant isn't a 50-50 match, or it's not, where we only put in 10, 20, 30%. It'd be wonderful if we did that. But unfortunately, federal government and state government haven't been that generous. But regardless of their lack of generosity, what is the critical nature of this kind of work? And also, if we can at least understand what the breadth of geographics that this organization actually serves, and who else within, for example, the San Fernando Valley actually does the work that CATS does.
Good morning. I'm Deputy Chief Michael Moore, Commanding Officer of Operations Valley Bureau, and I'm joined today by Ms. Kim Roth from the Valley Trauma Center, as well as by the CAO's office, and I'll allow them to make their introductions.
Kim Roth, Valley Trauma Center.
Look closer to the microphone.
Kim Roth, the Valley Trauma Center.
Jason Klein, CAO.
Ed Rose with the CAO.
And if I might lead the introduction on this matter, the Family Violence Justice Center is a model of providing services to victims of domestic violence that the city is, and LAPD is as a partner in this initiative, attempting to evaluate, to look at and calibrate whether its model offers improved outcomes to the victims of domestic violence. The model itself is a multidisciplinary team approach located off-site where prosecutors, LAPD personnel, victims advocates such as Ms. Roth and the Gail Pincus from the Valley Domestic Abuse Response Team provide counseling services, follow-up efforts so that victims of domestic violence feel that they have a place to go, a one-stop shop, and the continuity of services so that they remain in the effort of rehabilitating their lives, as well as allowing prosecutors to identify and arrest and prosecute those offenders. This one-stop shop, it is our belief, as an effort here of analysis, is going to improve our outcomes as far as the eventual reduction of the instances of domestic violence in the San Fernando Valley. As a city, our current model is that you go to several locations in order, as a victim or as a suspect for that matter, or as a witness to that concern, to deal with the various entities. A multidisciplinary team approach through this center, a center called the Valley Crisis and Recovery Services, offers us in the coming, this grant period, and it's a 3-year grant, up to a 3-year grant, would offer us a look. In the San Fernando Valley, we have, in the Van Nuys area, the proposal to working with Northridge Hospital, who's providing the one-stop shop, the building itself, the facilities, to locate these various partners, and we will look and model this this year and next to evaluate it and to see if the outcome. The population that we're serving presently is underserved in the sense of their abilities to have, at times, language services, transportation, their ability to have an understanding of our laws, of the services that are available to them. This effort is going to improve on each of those matrix, on each of those arenas of their need. We look to improve our services and support of survivors, but also we hear from prosecutors that because of the current model, victims don't stay with the process, that they don't stay, and oftentimes that means that suspects get away with, if you will, escape the bounds of prosecution only to reoffend. So I'm joined by Valley Trauma Center, Ms. Roth, who can give you further, but if I might speak to the cost of this, because I know that that is a primary interest of this council, and it is also one of the departments. It is our desire for this grant that it would be wonderful if this grant were to provide for all the personnel involved. The monies don't exist for that. What this will require for me to do in the San Fernando Valley is, out of the nearly 2,100 officers, is to take 2 officers today, 2 police officer 2s, and to, with the monies provided by this grant, elevate them to supervisory positions, to a D3 and a D2, to take the other existing detective personnel who are already working domestic violence cases in the Van Nuys area, and with the added supervision, allow them to be part of this MDT. The important point is this: the services that those 2 police officers are presently doing, this grant will change the manner of which they're providing those services, but will amplify and improve their value. It's cost neutral in that this grant is, acceptance of this grant clearly tells the department we cannot add new positions. This is a net, a new, cost neutral position, no new positions. This only allows an upgrading of 2 existing positions. And in the San Fernando Valley, in my analysis of it, this is the best use of those 2 existing resources funded by the grant. In the absence of this grant, there is no support on the department or by me as a bureau chief in the San Fernando Valley to continue as a D3 and a D2 because we have neither the money nor the resources to use existing positions.
So these officers are already involved in the domestic violence responsibilities within the department?
Well, we have, yes, as part of their normal patrol duties. In addition to that, this is going to allow us to expand the effectiveness of the existing domestic abuse response team. 4 nights a week in the San Fernando Valley, in Van Nuys specific, we have an officer who works with the victims advocates who go out and respond to instances of domestic violence. This is going to give them, this is going to allow that program, which by the way is not funded, but uses existing personnel. It's going to give them added benefit. It's going to expand their effectiveness. This type of use of existing resources, I believe, is in our best interest.
Now, from the CATS program, not accepting this grant or not being able to utilize this grant, would it diminish your ability to serve the San Fernando Valley? I mean,
Yes.
it wouldn't eliminate the organization. I'm not trying to exaggerate.
Right.
But would it limit or reduce your ability to serve the San Fernando Valley?
It would mean that victims who have experienced interpersonal violence would receive up to potentially 32 referrals to get services. So it means that when you are a victim of violence, what's going to happen is you're going to get a series of business cards and packages. You're going to be passed on from one person to another. So it's going to limit our ability to retain people in the system, to keep families safe, to keep children safe, because we're not going to be able to provide the wraparound sources that an individual needs to leave her batterer. She needs much more than we're able to give her right now. So there's the potential that we'll be returning individuals to their batterers because we won't be able to sufficiently support them.
Okay. Well, one of the things I want to thank you for providing this information, and I also want to respectfully thank Councilmember Smith and also Councilmember Parks for their diligence when it comes to the budgeting of the city overall, et cetera. And I didn't hear anybody say that that they don't appreciate the work that you're doing. And I respect this is critical work, and everybody knows it's good stuff. and it's important, but at the same time, that's the policymaker's dilemma that we have when we don't have enough funding. But unfortunately, as I said earlier, the federal government obviously isn't paying enough attention or giving us the kind of resources or even the opportunity to match at a ratio that is much more respectful to us, nor is the state of California. But at the same time, because of their negligence, it's forcing us to bite the bullet and have to figure out how we can find a way to budget this in. And that's what's before us, members, that I think that this work is so critical and so unique. It's so uniquely afforded only at this one place in the San Fernando Valley that we have to do whatever we can to make sure that we can actually continue these services, even though where our match is on a percentage basis nowhere near what we'd like it to be. Chief Moore?
But if I might add, the current model in the city of Los Angeles is a very efficient model. What we're looking at here is research. We're wanting to try a model that is being used in other agencies across the country. And as we're listening to victims, we're saying we don't know if this is going to improve outcomes. We believe it will. We're looking at other cities as examples, and this is an effort in the most aggressive manner possible to minimize the costs to the city as we try this. And let me assure you, LAPD and the department cannot engage in this model unless outcomes are significantly improved from what we have today, because we wouldn't be able to afford it. This grant itself allows us to try this, to research it, to effort in that arena and explore it, evaluate it. If it doesn't show improved outcomes, it's something that we then know and we can move on.
Thank you, Chief, for reminding me about that. It's my understanding that San Diego is doing something similar, or they have. But in order for Sacramento or Washington to get the message and figure out ways in which they can fortify us with more resources in the future, it's these kinds of outcomes that are going to assist us in doing so. We have 2 women U.S. senators representing the state of California, representing 40 million people. They should be our advocates in making sure that our matches are the other way around, where they give us $400,000, $500,000, and perhaps our match is only $100,000 or $150,000. We need to get to that point, and thank you, Chief Moore, for reminding us of how important it is, not only for us to engage and provide these services on a day-to-day basis, but for us to be able to provide the information to our other organizations, such as our U.S. Congress and our state legislature, to make sure that they give us an opportunity to do this in the future on a grander scale, because we expect, based on what we've seen in other cities and what we've done so far, we know it works. Now what we need to do is do it in a way where we can provide those outcomes. And hopefully we won't be having this discussion next time. We'll be ready and willing to accept this when the ratios are much more in line, where we're putting in maybe 10 to 25% when they're giving us $1 million. Then we just have to figure out how to find $100,000 or $250,000.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. We have Mr. Labange, Mr. Alarcon, and Ms. Gruel as our next 3 speakers.
Thank you very much. What's before us right now is an opportunity to receive a grant to enhance a program. Your vision is to, as Deputy Chief, put people closer to the situation in a more comfortable area, so they'll be more at ease in dealing with the challenges that face them. And the CAO, where's the CAO? CAO, is this revenue neutral?
At this point, it's cost neutral.
It's cost neutral. So, Mr. Smith, it's cost neutral. So I think we should support it. The CAO right here says it's cost neutral. So explain it. You can explain it. Explain it.
Originally, the department had requested additional positions for this program. What the department was willing to give up was Deputy Chief Moore was willing to utilize 2 existing police officer 2s, which were funded in the 2009-10 budget, and the grant is going to pay to reallocate those P2s to a Detective 2 and a Detective 3, and the grant picks up the full cost of those positions. So we're not going to activate resolution authorities. We're actually going to activate substitute authorities. And the CEO has built in a recommendation to go ahead and audit the program every fiscal year before the department reapplies for the grant funds. And if the grant program isn't doing what it says it's going to do, we'll go ahead and we'll remove the substitute authorities from the department. So the money that is going to go toward the general fund money that goes towards paying for this program would just be reallocated from patrol into this program. So it's not a cost, an additional cost to the department, it's just a service impact. And as Chief Moore has, or Deputy Chief Moore has illustrated, he believes that the service impact of actually administering this program is greater than the cost of actually having the officers just out on patrol.
Very well explained. And I think I flash back to when we had the first concept called neighborhood prosecutors. What if we never put neighborhood prosecutors in police stations because of the cost? We wouldn't be successful as we are in helping that advance that goal and the challenges that people meet in the areas that the neighborhood prosecutors work on. So I strongly recommend an aye vote on this, which is different from what Mr. Parks says. I also would like to ask the representative of the community who is involved day to day through your whole life, just give us a little brief overview about your passion here. Why this is important.
Well, it's important because we're not able to adequately serve individuals. We're not able to keep them out of battering homes right now. When a batterer tells an individual, you won't be able to survive without me, in actual fact, that often is the case. People are left without homes, without cars, without resources. Children can't succeed in school in these kinds of environments. We create a family environment that creates a culture of violence, which we see in many other aspects in our communities. We can tie this to juvenile justice, to gangs. So we need to provide these wraparound resources so we can promote safe families, so we can have some long-term reduction in violence in our community.
Right, I thank you for that. I think with what the Deputy Chief spoke of, what the articulation by the CAO that it's revenue neutral, and we look to the future, whatever the fiscal challenges are, but it's revenue neutral right now, and the passion of what the person who's involved day to day spoke, it's a yes vote for me. I ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Mr. Alarcon.
I don't think so. I don't think so. How many, Chief, would you be able to tell us how many grants the Los Angeles Police Department receives?
No, I would not. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to speak to that today.
But it's suffice to say, it's a lot.
Well,
many police programs are enhanced with federal and other grants. Is that
yes,
correct?
we would, and certainly we're always desirous of more funding from such initiatives.
Yeah. I am simply not understanding, with all due respect, the argument of Mr. Parks and Mr. Smith. The fact of the matter is, this is not new money that the city is contributing to this effort. It is, in essence, a matching grant. We are already providing services, and we are using that to get a matching grant from the federal government to do an enhancement of a program.
If I might, the department, particularly in the San Fernando Valley, I would not be able to support multiple grants such as this, because it would involve taking existing police officers off of the field, off of their existing duties, and realigning them for specialized purposes. However, in the San Fernando Valley at this point, this is the only such grant, and it's an important one for an effort of exploring whether or not we can improve the outcomes on victims of domestic violence. We have a couple of, I understand we have, I have outcomes from Alameda County as to their impact at the Family Justice Center that both felony prosecutions and misdemeanor prosecutions after 2 years of the program substantially improved. I'm looking to see whether or not in this experiment that will occur here. But if 10 more grants were to come to the San Fernando Valley tomorrow with this type of programming, I certainly understand and appreciate Councilman Smith and Parks' remarks that we can't afford to realign those existing personnel. This is a narrow instance, and it's one that, in the absence of this grant, we cannot support this realignment.
But Chief, the basis of their argument was not programmatic. It was money. And the fact is, we're not putting any new money into this program. We are merely using the existing allocations that have been approved by this council and the mayor, with the exception of the upgrade of the positions, which is a separate argument, but nobody made that argument. And we are using that as leverage to get a federal grant. So if we didn't do this, there are so many programs that are enhanced with federal grants that do exactly this that we vote on all the time. In fact, in our own council offices, we often get support from the community to enhance an event that we are implementing. So I don't see this as any different than that. The question of 50%, hey, if we already had 75% of the matching grant and got 25% of the federal government, that's 25% better than what we had when we began. So I simply don't understand why we wouldn't want to support this program. In terms of the work that is done, it is absolutely essential. I do want to state, though, I don't see anything wrong with the CATS program, as is, given the funding that it has. I'm sure there are little things that can be improved, but given the resources we have, it's a good program. And it does provide some of the services that you said would not be provided. What we are talking about is enhancing the services, not detracting from the services that are in existence. So I would ask you to be much more positive about the existing program. That's why we want to continue this program. So not only do I support this, I enthusiastically support the method to get the matching grant from the federal government, because we are a donor state and a city. We provide more in federal taxes than we get back. We need to get back more.
Just to clarify, the original report that was presented to the Public Safety Committee did have a general fund impact, and that's the impact that Councilman Smith and Councilman Parks are speaking of. The original report requested additional positions, so with the help of the CLA and the department, we went ahead and we modified the report to utilize existing resources, which makes it cost neutral at this point. Councilman Parks and Councilman Smith also had concerns about the ongoing costs once the grant was no longer available. And what we did was we had to build in a recommendation to actually make substitute authorities, not resolution authorities, so that once grant funding was no longer available, the department would have to then go ahead and request from the full council going through the budget process the continuance of this program. So what we tried to do with the modified report was make it cost neutral and address the concerns the Budget and Finance Committee have.
Thank you. We have Ms. Gruhl next. Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm very familiar with the CATS program and have been out to the site many years ago. Actually, it may have even been before the boundary changes and so forth. But it's a great program, and Mr. Cardenas has been a big supporter of that and the kinds of services and the cooperation that happens in the city of Los Angeles, and that it's a resource for us. I think colleagues, and I appreciate your response, Chief, the fact that if you had 10 of these, you might think differently. And the CAO in its report says there is no general fund impact, really, because we're using existing resources in kind. I think it is about prioritization, and that particularly in a time when we are in an economic crisis, we see more and more, unfortunately, domestic violence that occurs. People unable to handle the problems in their life, and they take it out on their spouse or children, which is unfortunate. So there's no greater need. But colleagues, we do this often, and I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Smith, but there's a commitment and a priority that we're going to move forward. There's a lot of economic stimulus grants that we're going for that we will look towards as well, where we're looking at the fact that we are committing to 4 years from now that we're going to push this forward. You didn't vote. That we're looking towards 4 years that we're going to spend, and we're committed to that. And I think it's important to make that statement today on domestic violence to support this program and the officers that are being assigned, and that the department has decided this is a priority for them as well. That you go for the grants for the reason that you said this is a priority. If you didn't think it was a priority, you would say, we're not going to put officers, we're not going to rush after this money just because there's money available. It is in concert with where the department is going forward. Is that an accurate
That is
statement?
correct. Currently, the department's Deputy Chief Beck is the chief of detectives, and in conversations with him, this experiment, if you will, of the Family Justice Center concept is to evaluate it for application across the city. Does it merit, with the added costs involved, the greater intensity, does it merit that public use of monies? And we can't answer that at this point. We only have other cities to look at. This is an experiment. It's a research to look, explore, to improve existing enhanced services. So that we are, you're aware, Valley Trauma and Ms. Roth from the Valley Trauma Center co-locates with the CATS facility, and they presently provide services both for victims of sexual assault as well as for victims of domestic violence. This is an enhancement of those services. It brings LAPD through the generosity of Northridge Hospital to a site, the outfitting of those sites, monies that are not being placed against or burdened against the city that would normally, if we were to take the full load of this would be a much more expensive proposition. But it's going to give us an opportunity to look and see, can we replicate what Alameda County has done, which is to improve the prosecutions of victims or suspects of domestic violence and lower the instances of it. Excuse me.
I think the problem comes in looking at the budget is if we continue to just fund and subsidize programs over the years that are no longer a priority, we do it just because, and I think in this instance it's going to be a useful tool for us in the city of Los Angeles. So I support the grant today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lots been said on it. I just want to stand in support of it. I think you're doing wonderful work out there, and the fact that Chief Moore and the LAPD are so strong and so committed to the program says a lot to me. And I just want to thank Mr. Cardenas because we did have this hiccup earlier on a few weeks ago in committee for really really justifiable, valid reasons. I mean, I think it is. And Mr. Smith and I talk a lot, both on the record and, at sidebar, about the budget problems that the city faces. And so these are very legitimate considerations that people are raising. They have nothing to do with the merits of the program. They're not about the program. They're about the enormous problem the city faces and will face for years. Nonetheless, I think this is the right thing to vote for. But I'm not disagreeing with the fiscal arguments that have been brought up on the other side. And I thank Mr. Cardenas. He and his office really dug into this a few weeks ago to make sure that we would come up with a resolution and what I hope is at least as close to a consensus plan as possible.
Thank you. I'm the next speaker. I'll just do it from the chair if I could move the previous question.
Second.
All right? I'm speaking for the first time. So,
okay.
Is there an objection? If you can formally object. That's all right. All right, if there's no objection, that will end debate then. We have this item before us, so if we can please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes, 1 no.
Okay. That is approved.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Next
much.
item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 22. That was called special by Councilmember Gruhl, and there is an amending motion that has been distributed to the council.
Okay. Anybody wishing to speak on that? If not, as amended, we'll accept that as a friendly amendment. We can please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved as well. Next item.
Item 24, called special for cards.
All right. We have item 24 next. And Zuma Dog is our first speaker in Van Nuys.
I retired this item. I'll pass on this, sir, today.
Arnold Sachs is our next speaker.
Yes, good morning, Arnold Sachs. Maybe some of you might have seen the article in the LA Times regarding the slumlord landlord who's managed to outfox not only the city council but the city attorney's office by maintaining a series of slumlord apartments. How realistic is this REAP program when a slumlord can maintain apartments in LA for 25 years and pay about $1,000 in fines? How realistic, how strong is this program? Why does the penalty for REAP programming fall on the small individual homeowner or apartment owner, and yet a slumlord landlord for 25 years is able to go unpunished? It's a wonderful question, and I'm looking forward to the answer, as always, from the City Council.
Mr. Matt Dowd is our next speaker in Van Nuys. After that is Mark Hurd.
All right, Arnold Sachs, you should know better by now. You don't get the answers from the City Council. You get them from Zuma Dog on the LA Daily blog. See, he says this is a racket, and there is potential here for racketeering, because a lot of these properties, they get into this rent escrow program, and ultimately, when some of these small-time landlords, they're unable to make the necessary code repairs, these properties can be targeted by your investigation unit, the rent escrow unit, who can slap them with violations, and then they're unable to pay it, and then suddenly someone will come along and they'll buy that property because it'll be tagged for demolition, and then the developers come and build the condos on them, and that's how we get into the state with the density and all the traffic problems. Jack Weiss in a power of trouble in his district already.
Our next speaker is Mark Hurd. Mr. Hurd, nope, not there. All right, we'll close public comment. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item is item number 25, and that was called special for card.
All right, Mark Hurd is our first speaker in Van Nuys. I think he's left. Zuma Dog is our next speaker.
Where is Mark? He's coming back, so keep calling his name. But number 25 is about the CRA. Okay, first of all, I want to make sure the CRA doesn't double dip. You know, this is good. It's housing projects along the new goal line downtown for Chinatown. I wanted to wave on this one, but okay, they've got affordable housing. First of all, I want to make sure it says affordable housing, low income. We got to make sure it stays low income. First of all, they're getting grant money for this housing. Make sure the CRA is not double dipping, because what happens is there's so much money to be made in this non-profit housing. They do a lot of double dipping, applying for various grants, and they don't double check. But the main thing that I see a problem with a lot of these projects, and I'm running out of time, is that they plan on the money being there when it's not necessarily going to be there. And you know what? I'll have to pick this up on the next item. So I'll have to continue on the next one. Thank you.
Arnold Sachs is our next speaker. After that is Matt Dowd.
Yes, good morning again. Thank you, Arnold Sachs. How the CRA, an agency that doesn't conform to the city's financial policies, is enabled to get their hands on this much funding. Numerous council agenda items I read where the CRA does not have to follow city financial policies. So that's where I get my remarks from that. Question number 2, will they be required to follow, as with the Grand Avenue project, the development of a park prior to any construction? I think that's a really good idea, by the way, with any kind of Quimby funds that might be collected for housing, that the park should go in first so the public in the area has something to enjoy when the development goes belly up and the city has to bail them out. And number 3, low-income housing, low-income housing, what's the standard set? Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Dowd is our next speaker in Van Nuys.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just take 1 minute on this one. Same problem as usual we have with these. It's the transparency, and we're taking Prop 1C money, so people watching on TV, this is not free money. This is bond money that has to be paid back. So we're building these projects, and this one is $3.6 million apartment project in Chinatown. The problem is $1 million disappears straight off the top of that Prop 1C money in the front-end loaded contracts, the management contracts. So you really, then they start building these properties, and you don't end up with as many as you were supposed to, and because there's not as many, you've got to charge more for them, so they don't end up being affordable.
All right, we have one last speaker, Tim Soule, if you'd like to come forward.
I'm Tim Sewell with Meta Housing Corporation, and I just wanted to field any questions that council may have regarding the project.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Soule. That will close the public comments. Any questions from the members? If not, let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is item 26, and that was called special for cards.
All right, Mr. Zuma-Dog, and then Mark Hurd.
Yes, 1 minute on this, and we got the special items, so that's, you know how that works with the separate time. Okay, now the problem with these CRA funding projects, I'm very concerned. It says, for example, recognize Prop 1C funds as awarded and place funds into each of these projects. However, it's relative submitting for the grant funding from California. So you're submitting for this money, you don't know if all these projects are going to get them, and you mark it all in. It's just like yesterday with you're going to sell off possibly, if you did sell off the parking rights, it's $80 million that you're counting on in the budget. Well, it's not really there. So you're basing all your plans, all your hopes and dreams on things that you don't really have. And I don't think you can bank on the state of California coming through with any money for anything right now. Plus, it's the CRA. It's shady. You're sucking the soul out of with the city with the CRA.
All right, and Mr. Hurd, I think he's not there, so we'll close the public hearing on that. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item is item 28, and that was called special for cards.
Okay, item 28, we have Zuma-Dog.
Okay, and then again, I'll have the minutes for the special meeting, but special event fee waivers. The problem is the city has no discipline. We have a massive budget crisis. First of all, we heard the mayor, but you're going to, and I'm talking, the special event fee, the reason I keep talking about the budget and why it's not off topic, this money that you waive, well, you don't really waive it. It comes out of the general fund. And it's things for like, walks, runs, warm-up stretches, donut sprinkling, cookie cutting, pastry making, all types of fun little things. And so we got a $7 billion LACER budget. We lost $7 billion in pension fund money. In the year 2013, we're going to be paying 56 cents of every dollar to bail out the pension loss of last year. This means that the city will be declaring bankruptcy in 2013. It's inevitable. The mayor could dance around with his little Mickey Mouse charts and say everybody's going to give back everything. Then city council, you can vote on something that you know is going to be getting a no vote. You're going to have to send back. Am I allowed to get on this table and start jumping up and down and screaming and yelling? Do you know the financial crisis that the city is under right now after Villaraigosa's pension investors just lost $7 billion in Wall Street, that there's an SEC investigation, and now the city's on the hook for the money, and you're banking on $80 million of the budget to come out of parking revenues that you don't even have. And all of these...
You can bring it back to the item that is
Okay, then
at
I
hand,
guess,
please.
thank you, Eric, thank you. That's the long setup for saying, I want to see some no votes on the cookie cutting, donut sprinkling, walks, runs, stretches. There's $180,000 for the Broadway Festival. No more parades, no more celebrations, and I want to know on some of these. And also, 4th of July is coming. You need to decide how much you're going to spend and put a cap on it. We can't afford to spend millions on 4th of July.
Thank you very much. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker here in council chambers.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. Although I am not necessarily religious, I am faithful. And so speaking on behalf of all the religious leaders who couldn't get here to City Hall, or maybe were not informed by Councilman Parks that there was an agenda item that might have a walk or a run or a skate or a whatever on a weekend, as with the LA Marathon, which interfered with church services, any event that the city condones on a weekend will interfere with somebody's right to pray to whatever, whoever, wherever, whenever they want to on the weekend. That being said, and not having a contract signed, any events that include a walk or a run or a swim or a bike or anything of that nature on a weekend should be discontinued because as we had occur with the LA Marathon, when 4 people got up in front of the city council and proclaimed how difficult it was for them to have attendance at their churches. 20,000 voices were drowned out. So I speak on behalf of whoever. They're not here. I'm speaking on behalf of the idiotic policy that was enacted by the city council.
Mr. President, he is not talking about these special
We have special
events.
events that are before us right now, so if you could please bring that to that. We're not talking about any marathons or anything like that today, so please, if you could keep it focused right there. I think we've warned you a number of times on that, so please, thank you. Okay? Go ahead.
Please set my time back. Because you have a walk, you have a run, you have a program.
Right, but the times of those are not up for question right now. If you have comments on those particular ones, go ahead.
I'm making comments on them. They're being held on a weekend, like a run, that will interfere with church attendance. That's my commentary. My commentary is on the stupidity of the policy that enabled the marathon to be changed, and it should be held to the same standards as these other events that you have.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Matt Dowd in the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, thank you. And, I don't know if I can address you, Eric, directly, but I'll try.
You've been warned. Please direct your comments to the council as a whole. That will count as your warning. Thank you.
Okay. Well, here's what I want to say. See, I'm trying to listen to the tone. I yelled at you guys for 3 years already. So the budget and the $7 billion, they're way more important than us bickering over little silly things on this podium. And I talked yesterday about these fee waivers, said how happy I was that they were being reimbursed and they weren't ridiculous. And then today I get here and these are absolutely outrageous. They're beyond ridiculous. So in a time, this is what we're talking about, look at Van Nuys here around me. There's just a couple of us in a big old chamber, and I'm speaking to the budget and being able to pay for these things in this crisis. Greg Smith knows what I'm talking about. You could chop half of the lights. You got all these monitors going here. There's nobody here except us, but there's a lot of, these are little things that will add up. And here on this fee waiver thing today, we got one here like the Cinco de Mayo, okay? And I'm not just hitting the Cinco de Mayo. There's one here, Asian and Pacific Islander American. That's me. I come from the Pacific Islands, a place called New Zealand. It's in the Pacific. It's an island in the South Pacific. And I'm ready to wave that one away too. No, we don't need all these right now. We're going to have to say, look, we're in a budget crisis. Everybody has to tighten the belt across the board. That means African American, Cinco de Mayo, Asian, Pacific, Westwood, opening night of the Asian Pacific Film Festival, Tom LeBonge and Jack Weiss. He's already getting corrupt with ethics violations, everything. Come on, Jack, knock these off.
Sir, that was your last warning. You were told not to direct to individual council members, and you've been warned a number of times, just for the record on that. That will close our general public comment on this item, if we can prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, that is approved.
Mr. President, would you like to recess the regular meeting and go back to the special meeting to take up those items?
Got your vote on that? Recessing the regular meeting.
If there's no objection to continue 33 till Friday, I'd like to move that. Without objection, we'll continue that. We can go now to the special meeting, please, and take up the items called special.
First item is 35, and that was called special for cards.
Okay, Mr. Sachs, would you like to come forward? We have 2 minutes for the special meeting total, sir.
Thank you again, Arnold Sachs. Never mind the factor that the CRA again is involved in getting their hands, or the greasy hands, on $52 million approximately. But I concern myself with Section 2 of Paragraph 1, authorize the Chief Executive Officer. The Crenshaw Mid-City Corridors, with a plural, means there are 2 corridors, except when you're dealing with the Crenshaw Mid-City Expo line, which is 1 corridor. But that's the same as the the Expo light rail line. what soothes, what appeals, however action you want to take to twist the truth to serve your purposes and the deep pockets that you actually represent never fails to amaze me. You consistently lower the bar to a new high. It's amazing how you manage to sit there.
Thank you, sir.
I get 2 minutes, sir.
I say you have in segments of 1 minute, 2 minutes for the special meeting. Okay. We have Mr. Matt Dowd on this, cognizant of the warning. I'm sorry, sir. For the special meeting, I'm sorry, total. A minute thing. So, Mr. Matt Dowd?
Sergeant at Arms, remove that.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Eric. And that first time when I addressed you...
All right, Zuma Dog will be our next speaker. You were warned, and you've sacrificed your ability to now speak. We've asked you to please abide by those. If Mr. Dog would like to speak next, please.
Bro, you got to learn your lesson. You got to learn how to...
We try to keep it consistent, Mr.
I know.
Dog.
I'm so disappointed that he got caught. He could have easily... Matt, you could have easily...
Sorry, Mr.
avoided
Dog,
that.
if you please address
Yes.
us. Thank you.
I have a question for the city attorney. Is it 1 minute for each?
So you have 2 segments of 1 minute for this special meeting. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Regarding the CRA project, first of all, I want the disbandment of the CRA. It's a money-sucking agency. They do hundreds of $millions of loans, never paid back. And again, I need to warn of this Prop 1C money. This is for $52 million of grant money. It says recognize funds is already awarded and place funds into each of these 5 projects. However, before it says that, relative to submitting for grant funding for the state of California, I'm here to say I would not be planning on Jack Squatnik from Arnold Schwarzenegger to fund anything right now. The city... So what I don't like is when the city banks on money it doesn't have. It's like when Zuma Dog asks for money and I'll say, yeah, I'll pay you back. It's like,
Thank you,
don't
Mr.
buy
Dog.
that one either.
I'll close our comments on this item. If we please open the roll, close the roll and prepare and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, Mr. Dog, on item 36. Would you like to speak on that, or 37?
37.
Okay, 36, we'll close the public hearing, prepare the roll, and tabulate the vote. That is approved.
14 ayes.
And number 37, Mr. Dog. 1 minute left.
Yes. Thank you. This is about track maps, and this time it's about one track map, and I think we have to say no to all track maps. We have a massive crisis in the city of Los Angeles. A, we're not going to be able to provide services like fire, police, trash removal. You'll call 911, they'll say, yes, let's take your appointment, we'll get back to you. Secondly, water. Massive water crisis. I've been talking about this for 3 years. It is now before us. I do not think the city of Los Angeles can guarantee through DWP that they can have water for these projects. And this is such an important thing. And it seems like such a little, nothing. Oh, we can't, oh yeah, here goes Zuma Dog again, doesn't have enough water. No, we don't have enough water. Thirdly, the DWP, the transformers, it's about to blow. It's going to look like Independence Day. It's going to look like Tropic Thunder, blackouts, brownouts. We cannot have any more high density until you address the DWP infrastructure, and I don't mean solar. Thank you, City. Thank you,
Mr.
City
Dog.
Council.
Did Mr. Hurd come back? Mr. Dog?
Yes, he's here. Mr. Hurd is here.
Mr. Hurd on item 37.
It's about the track maps.
I'd like to request, do I get 2 minutes or just 1?
1 minute, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Council, for your time. Regarding this issue, I'd just like to say in general, I think development is very, very important for Los Angeles, but it has to be done in a green way. We've got to keep the carbon footprint down. I'm not against development. I think we need more of it. But it's your guys' job to build the infrastructure and crack that whip and get the infrastructure in here, like the HOV lane on the 405, which seems to take forever and ever. It took 50 years to get the Century Freeway in here. And it's our government's job to put the infrastructure in so these developers can come in and build green. You guys should hold them to a green standard, a high standard in that regard, but let them build. You guys just need to crack the whip on infrastructure. And we're still waiting. We're sitting there on the Santa Monica on-ramp for the 405, still waiting in traffic.
Sorry, sir. We're talking
I know.
today
Thank
about-
you very much.
Okay, thank you. And for the green building, every building now, we started with 50,000, but every building over 50,000 square feet is required to be built green, and every government building as well. So thank you for that. We'll continue to work on that. If you'd like more information, I know our Department of Public Works and our Planning Department are working very closely on expanding the green construction. Thank you all for your public comment today. If we can prepare the roll on 37 and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Ms. Gruhl would like to reconsider 22.
Mr. President, that's the end of the
Sorry, we could recess
special
the
meeting.
special meeting, go back to the
Do you want
regular
to
meeting.
adjourn the special meeting?
Adjourn it, please. Thank you. And if we can go to the regular meeting and reconsider 22. Please open the roll on reconsideration. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That's back before us. Ms. Gruhl?
We had a few projects that were missing on the list. I thought we were going to executive session, so I thought we could add it, but of course we're not. So we just need to continue this item till Friday.
Without objection, then we'll continue 22 till Friday. Next order of business, please.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those are posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Hahn requests to be excused Tuesday, June 2nd, to arrive at 10:30 for city business that meets council policy.
All right, she's excused.
Councilmember Zine requests to be excused May 13th to arrive at 12:30, July 8th to arrive at 11, and May 6th to arrive at 10:30. Those are all for city business, and they all meet council policy.
All right, that excuse is granted.
Councilmember Gruhl requests to be excused Wednesday, May 20th, to leave at noon. That meets council policy. That's for city business.
Okay, she's excused.
And Councilmember Gruhl also requests to be excused Friday, June 19th, to leave at 12:45 for city business. That meets council policy.
All right, and she is excused as well.
Councilmember Alarcon requests to be excused May 6th for city business. That meets council policy.
He's excused.
And Councilmember Cardenas requests to be excused Friday, August 14th for city business. That meets council policy.
All right, he's excused as well.
And that clears the desk.
Any announcements about council meetings, committee meetings? Mr. Parks?
Budget meeting will be at 1 o'clock today in these chambers.
Okay, 1 o'clock in these chambers. Our Budget and Finance Committee will continue its deliberations on the mayor's proposed budget for fiscal year 2009-2010. Mr. Labange?
Adjourning member.
Sorry?
Adjourning motion.
Okay. If I could ask everybody, please, in council chambers to rise for our adjourning motions. If I can ask everybody in chambers to please rise out of respect for our adjourning motions, please. Thank you. Mr. Labange.
Members, I ask we adjourn in memory of Pauline Ann Arsenian Oxheimer. She's the mother of Jody Oxheimer from our CAO's office. She was a very special woman who was loved by her family. She attended Pepperdine University before her marriage. And as a single working mother who raised her children in the Harbor City area, she had a very strong impact on her children and her grandchildren. She had a long and valiant fight with lung cancer. We ask we adjourn in memory of Pauline Ann Arsenian Oxheimer, who was much loved by her children and grandchildren.
We'll do all members on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Additionally, members, I ask we adjourn in memory of B. Arthur, who was a stage-trained actress who succeeded and was a long run on Broadway before a television audience got to know her as Maude, and also in her later on in The Golden Girls. She was loved by fellow actors, and she's survived by her son Matthew and Daniel. I ask we adjourn in memory of B. Arthur.
Thank you very much. Second from Ms. Hahn.
And finally, I ask we adjourn in memory of Bob Oates, the longtime sports writer, sports editor for the Los Angeles Times, who for 39 years was a member of the original team that covered the Super Bowl, was part of the initial team that voted to induct those since 1962 in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He lived in Baldwin Hills. He was a wonderful writer, and it was a great, he advanced the Los Angeles Times sports section in a great way. I ask we adjourn in memory of Bob Oates.
Thank you. Any other adjourning motions today, colleagues? If not, we will be in Van Nuys on Friday for the first meeting of the month in Van Nuys City Council Chambers. That is on Friday at 10 a.m. On the 1st of April. May. 1st of May. We'll see you all then. Have a great meeting great day. And if you will please call the roll.